No game until Thursday for the Bolts, but plenty on the horizon for the Lightning, including some potential extra Bolts in the Four Nations tournament. We'll talk about it all on today's episode of Locked On Lightning.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Lightning. Josh Sperber here, thanking all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, then this is the show for you. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, because you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And let's get started by talking about the Four Nations tournament. The rosters for Four Nations will be fully available on December the 4th. That is tomorrow. Already two Bolts that are guaranteed to play in the Four Nations tournament. Braden Point and Victor Hedman were named to the rosters of Canada and Sweden, respectively, back in June, as one of the 6 players announced for those nations. Big honor, of course, for them to be one of the first players announced to the rosters of this tournament, but 6 is not going to be enough for a full hockey roster. So we take a look at some of the other Lightning players that might be on the line to play in that Four Nations tournament. And Brandon Hagel is the first name that comes to mind for me. And it is not that. And I'm going to start this by saying I think Brandon Hagel is a great player. He might not be one of the best Canadian players right now in terms of his whole NHL career. But right now, at this very moment, he has to be treated like he's one of the best players in Canada. Hagel is having an excellent start to the season. He's someone who I think needed to step up for the Lightning this year for them to have some kind of success. He has certainly done that. At this point in the year, Hagel has played in every game. He has 29 points, which is second on the team, 10 goals, third on the team, 19 assists, second on the team. His plus minus is at +9, which is fourth on the Lightning. Everything the Lightning have asked Brandon Hagel to do so far this year, he has done in spades. So I think that the way he's playing right now, Team Canada would be foolish to not consider him. He is just on a hot streak. And with these kind of tournaments, with these kind of international play, you don't always want to just pick the guys with the best career. Sometimes you're going to want to throw in some players who, maybe have not been a part of, a lot of big international teams before, maybe not be the biggest name in the NHL, but right now there's not a lot of left wings in any country that are playing better than Brandon Hagel right now. So he's someone who I think might be joining Braden Point sometime soon on that Team Canada roster. Definitely someone I think that they should consider because of how well he's playing, especially just considering the fact that he is, not one of the main guys, not a first-line guy for the Tampa Bay Lightning right now. But regardless of the injuries that have happened to the Lightning's first line, namely Braden Point, Hagel has played his way onto being a first-line guy at times. And I think his talent and his start to the season right now absolutely can't be ignored by Team Canada. And then for the United States, Jake Gensel is someone who I absolutely expect to be on the U.S. team. And this is, a little bit different than the Brandon Hagel situation. I think that Gensel is legitimately one of the best American hockey players right now, and he's on the younger side, hitting his prime at 30 years old. It just seems like a slam dunk for him to get onto the U.S. team and be, I think a pretty key player in that. And you look at the American guys, there are three other wingers that are on the team right now: Jack Eichel, Austin Matthews, and Matthew Tkachuk. That might be that first line for Team USA, but I think you look at Jake Gensel and you've got to put him up with those kind of guys. I mean, he has been playing with star power really since he started in the league. Sidney Crosby, who is on Canada's Four Nations roster, was a teammate of Jake Gensel. I'm sure Evgeny Malkin would have been one of the 6 named for Team Russia's roster, as probably would have Nikita Kucherov and Andrei Vasilevsky. Those are Gensel's used to playing with players of this caliber and with a lot of players that are going to be in this Four Nations tournament. He was playing with Sebastian Aho, who's one of the 6 named for Team Finland already. That was last year during the playoff, and he had a great second half of the season with Carolina and was solid for them in the postseason as well. And then coming to the Tampa Bay Lightning, filling the shoes of Steven Stamkos, has Gensel, is Gensel going to replace Stamkos? No, you can't replace a guy like that on your team. But it has become clear that there is another star on the Tampa Bay Lightning, and his name is Jake Gensel. He has proven that he's one of the best offensive players in the league. He is behind Brandon Hagel in a lot of stats for the Lightning, but he has still played in all 23 games, a plus or minus of +2. 3 of his 10 goals in the power play, 12 assists, 22 points, tied with Victor Hedman for 4th on the Lightning. Gensel has done everything that you could expect him to do on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Has he become, an instant superstar? Maybe. He's not the top option on this team. You've got Nikita Kucherov, who's really pulling the strings for that, but Gensel has solidified himself as a key offensive producer on this Tampa Bay Lightning team. And in the last couple of seasons, he has certainly solidified himself as one of the better offensive producers in the NHL. And I think that's going to be rewarded by putting Gensel on the U.S. Four Nations roster. And honestly, for me, those I think are the locks. Jonas Johansson, Swedish. There are a lot of Swedish goaltenders in the league. I think he might have an outside shot, but I mean, I'm looking at guys like Olmark from Ottawa, Gustafsson from Minnesota that I think might get in there over him. But Johansson's still a serviceable goalie that might be considered. You look on the rest of the team for the Lightning, and I don't know how many other guys might be on these Four Nations teams. I think McDonough's a possibility, just because he's played pretty well, but I don't really see it. I mean, I think if any more Lightning players are going to be added, I think it'll be Gensel and Hagel. Anthony Cirelli is certainly someone that I think needs to be considered as well, just because of how strong a month of November he had, that 7-game goal streak. And even before that, he was putting up numbers for the Lightning. In October, he had his 4-assist game. He had almost double-digit assists in the first month of the season, which really amounted to about half of a month in terms of gameplay. So, Cirelli's someone that I think will be considered, but ultimately miss the team. But if there are any other players for the Tampa Bay Lightning, aside from Hedman and Point, that are going to make this team from the Tampa Bay Lightning, I think Brandon Hagel is someone who could be considered for Canada, and I think that Jake Gensel will be suiting up for the red, white, and blue in that Four Nations tournament. And of course, that's not the biggest tournament that is going on in the NFL season that the Lightning are suiting up for. It's the start of a new month. So we're going to take a look at some of the things that have gone right so far this Lightning season and see what their path to the playoff looks like after 2 full months of NHL action. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. You just pick you just pick Prize Picks to run your game all season long on Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including Florida, California, Georgia, and Texas. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action, so join over 10 million users and sign up today. When you sign up, you get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts, like today's Taco Tuesday, which is every Tuesday. Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineup. So just download the Prize Picks app today and use the code below, Locked On NHL, to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. The Tampa Bay Lightning have been a playoff team for the better part of this decade, the better part of, longer than most of us can probably remember. And that's a good thing. That is where any NHL team wants to go. And another good thing is the fact that the Lightning are currently sitting in playoff position. Right now, they are third in the wild card spot with 3 games in hand to try and grab another wild card spot. They are 1 point behind the Bruins despite playing 3 games less than Boston. Tampa, the plus 13 differential, 12-9-2 over the first 2 months of the NHL season. And especially with some of the injuries the Lightning have had lately that I think have really slowed up their momentum. There's a couple of games that, with a fully healthy team, the Lightning may have had a different result. Even Nikita Kucherov is banged up, Nick Paul, Mitchell Chaffee, Braden Point. These are all guys that have had to miss games in the past week or so for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And right now, the Lightning have been going through some adversity, and these kind of things are going to happen. You're going to have just pockets of the season where there are just guys getting banged up left and right. That's part of the game, unfortunately. And right now, the Lightning are in it. But they did have a really solid month of November where their power play ranked 3rd and their penalty kill ranked tied for 4th and just not only is that really strong, but you look at where they were in October, the power play was 26th, moved up to 3rd. The penalty kill was 27th, moved up in a tie for 4th. So that right there is maybe the most crucial part of the month of November for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I think every post-game episode we've talked about the power play and the penalty kill. I think I'll take your silence as a yes. But, that is the special teams have been something that's so emphasized for the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's been such a key part of the way that they run their team. And to have that big of a jump in a month with all the injuries, especially missing a couple games of Braden Point, who still leads the NHL with 9 power play goals. You lose your best power play producer for, I think, 2 or 3 games. It might not seem like a huge deal, but the fact that a healthy Braden Point could have meant the Lightning have the number one power play in the NHL for November is saying something. Even if you're missing one of your top guys for a short period of time, you're still missing one of your top guys, and that's still not easy to get over if you're the Lightning. So the Lightning have definitely been going through some adversity in the month of November, but I think it could help them come out stronger. Teams that go through these type of difficulties, these type of road bumps at such an early point in the season can, I think it can really help them later in the year. And unfortunately for the Lightning, that same thing might be true for the Bruins. Already had the first coach firing of the NHL season. And the Bruins, as of right now, are still 1 point ahead of the Tampa Bay Lightning. So that's with 3 games. The Lightning have 3 games in hand. The Bruins are 0-2-1 in those extra games, the same amount of wins as the Lightning. And the Lightning have a game against the Sharks on Thursday that they're hoping is going to be one of those wins. But I think the Lightning can certainly, see the light at the end of the tunnel in terms of their goal of playoffs is absolutely within reach. And it seems really early to be saying that. And I understand that because it's December. Playoffs are probably not on the mind of these Lightning in terms of them being so soon, but it's something that, is just always an underlying figure. When the guys are talking about, winning these close games, it's preparation for the playoffs. And that's really what a lot of this season is. And the Lightning, I think, have put themselves in a solid position so far. I don't know if they're going to catch the top 2 teams in their division right now in Florida and Toronto. Right now, everything's up for grabs, and that's expected to be the case in the month of November. The Lightning, with 2 games in hand on Florida and 5 games behind the Panthers. They play the same amount of games as Toronto and are 4 games behind the Maple Leafs, missing an opportunity to overtake the Leafs in the loss on Saturday. But right now, I think the Lightning have done everything they can to put themselves in the right position for the postseason. And I really think that it can only improve. But by the way this season has gone so far, I expect the Lightning to finish 3rd and easily in the playoffs in the Atlantic Division. I think that at the beginning of the season, I had them 4th, still a playoff team, and I believe that is going to be the same thing for them. But a lot of turmoil right now with the Bruins, and at this point in the season, the Lightning actually have the 3rd best win percentage in the entire Atlantic Division. And they also are 2nd in the division in goals scored. They have scored 86 behind only Florida, who have put 92 in the net. But the Lightning have the highest plus-minus differential of plus 13 in terms of goal differential in the entire division. And offensively, there are a few teams in the league that I think can match the Tampa Bay Lightning. When it comes to their division, the Maple Leafs are the team that they play the most, and the Maple Leafs have gotten the better of them twice. The rest of the division, I think, are teams that the Lightning can challenge. By the end of it, I think Toronto is going to win the Atlantic Division. I think the Lightning are going to finish 3rd. I would not be surprised if they overtook the Panthers. I think that the Panthers are going to be the 2nd place team in that Atlantic Division, but the Lightning can certainly challenge them. Right now, with 2 games in hand on the Panthers, the Lightning are 5 points behind. They're right in striking distance for every single spot in this Atlantic Division. And, the Leafs have already proved to be too strong for the Lightning on 2 separate occasions, as Toronto has won 2 games in regulation of the 2 games they have played against the Tampa Bay Lightning. They might run away with this division when it's all said and done, but I think the Lightning will be there in the postseason chasing the Stanley Cup at the end of it, whether it's in 3rd place or 2nd place. I think 2nd might be a bit of a surprise, but it's something that the Lightning can shoot for. And it's too early to say the division's out of reach. Again, I expect the Maple Leafs to take the division in the Atlantic, but can the Lightning be challenging for that top spot when it's all said and done? 100% yes. The Lightning have proven that they're still here, that they're still an elite team in this Atlantic division, and that four block of Florida, Toronto, Boston, and Tampa is still very much intact as the four teams to beat when it comes to a playoff spot in the Atlantic. And I think the Lightning are going to end up getting one of those playoff spots at some point this year. But, you know, they're gonna have to test some of their Atlantic Division teams, and there are going to be a couple of big tests in that Atlantic Division in the month of December, namely December 22nd and 23rd home and home back-to-back against the Florida Panthers. And those are two games that I already have circled on my December schedule, and I think can be really telling when it comes to the divisional outlook of the Atlantic. We are going to be right back, and after that, we'll talk about the four Lightning players who could be the best in November when it comes to this past month. Who is November's Bolt of the Month? Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, where you can bet on just about any sport you can think of. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NHL, all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NHL. And one last segment for today's show, something I started in October when Nikita Kucherov was the Bolt of the Month for the first month of the season. Now, the second month, the first full month, has concluded, and we need to take a look at who that may be in the month of November. We are going to get started with the goaltender, Andrei Vasilevskiy. A big month of November for him, including a shutout. He was 4-5-1 in 10 games, saved 234 of 259 shots. And that one overtime loss was a shootout loss. Vasilevskiy, I think, record-wise, is the only just difference. You know, the only thing on his stat line that isn't eye-popping, including some of the goalies that only played one or two games. Vasilevskiy was 17th in the NHL in goals allowed average for the month of November at 234. I think a big reason that I have him on this list right now, though, is because the performances and his wins in the month of November were incredible. And it also included a big milestone with the 300th win against Winnipeg. But he was great against Colorado, that 8-2 win at home, and that was his worst performance in a win this month. The game against Pittsburgh, he stonewalled them, did the same thing against Nashville, and really those two home games around his 300th milestone, the 4-1 win against the Jets, the 4-0 win against the Devils, he was outstanding. And it's really for those two games, for the most part, that I have him in this list. But, I mean, a guy becomes the fastest goaltender ever to 300 wins, gets told, you know, the coach right after tells his media that he's just one of the best players in the game, future Hall of Famer, all that, singing his praises for good reason. That's going to earn him a spot on the Bolt of the Month chart. And one repeat is, of course, the reigning Bolt of the Month in Nikita Kucherov, who leads the Lightning in second in goals scored, lead the Lightning in assists and points. And he had a solid month of November, as you would expect from Kucherov, tied with Brandon Hagel for the team lead in points. one fewer goal, one more assist, and one fewer game than Brandon Hagel. You got to put Kucherov on there. I mean, he's been really the best Lightning player for a while now, and those offensive numbers continued in that second month. We're hoping that he's back against San Jose, and it really showed. The first game the Lightning played without Nikita Kucherov, it took a furious run at the end for the Lightning really to be in the game. I mean, yeah, the Lightning did have some control of that loss against the Maple Leafs, but it was still a game that Toronto controlled really until the last 5 minutes of that third period when the Lightning rattled off 3 straight goals, and then an empty netter from the other side of the ice from Toronto was what ended up sealing the deal. And, the first 45, 55 minutes, 50 minutes of that game without Nikita Kucherov showed how important he was to the Lightning team. Obviously, the Lightning have guys that can turn it on when Kuch is hurt, when Kuch is on the bench, or just when he's not playing in general. But he is still the straw that stirs the drink. He is still what makes the Lightning offense go. And let's face it, he's Nikita Kucherov. He is one of, if not the best offensive player in the entire NHL. I think he's certainly a name that he would put on this list. He is not the name, though, that I would choose. Brandon Hagel might be the name that I would choose. He, as I just mentioned, tied Nikita Kucherov for the team lead in points. 17 points in 13 games, including a Lightning record-tying 5 assist game. One of an exclusive list on that 5 assists in a game, 4 in a period, which is also an NHL record as well. So some big games for Brandon Hagel, and it really seems like he's making a star turn. I talked about him in the last segment as that he'd be one of the guys that I would pick on Team Canada right now. But he's really starting to establish himself as one of the premier wingers in the league. And I think getting that assistant captain nod in the last game, that loss against Toronto with Kucherov out, really shows that. Hagel was a guy who was traded to the Tampa Bay Lightning. And yes, Ryan McDonough is one of the Lightning's alternate captains right now, and he is in his second stint with Tampa Bay. But, his age, his experience, and the fact that he played a long time with the Lightning, I think had some say in that. Hagel might not be an original Bolt, which is usually the stakes for when it comes to naming their captains, and this might have been temporary, but still, this is Hagel's third full season, 4th overall with the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's not every day that they name a captain like that, an alternate captain or regular captain, of someone who has not, been a homegrown Bolt or who has played a lot longer. And it's clear that he has a place of high respect on this Lightning team in the clubhouse and with the upper management as well. So Hagel's someone that I think is only going up, and it really seems like he's making a star turn as he turns 27. And Victor Hedman is going to be the last guy on the list, partly for the milestone in a solid November where he finished 3rd among all Lightning players in points, including 11 assists, which was second on the team over the course of the month of November. Hedman always, I think, has to be a guy that's on this list. The leadership that he shows as a captain is not something that shows up on the stat sheet, but it's noticeable. His control of the locker room, his leadership is something that is a massive asset to a player like him. Not to mention that just skill-wise makes him one of the best defenders in the NHL. Could be the Sweden captain in 4 nations, and he's going to be the last Lightning player to ever wear the number 77. You got to put him in the Bolt of the Month conversation. He just helps makes this team go, and he got a little bit more aggressive at points on offense. I'd like to see him get involved even more in the offensive attack, whether it's with his great passing ability or his rocket of a slap shot. Hedman is someone that I want touching the puck in the offensive zone. He's someone that I want helping the Lightning to just push the pace a little bit. And I think he'll do even more of that in the month of December. Couple other Lightning players that I did not have on the list, but I think should be mentioned. Anthony Cirelli is absolutely one that I think could be considered. That 7-game goal streak is a big reason for it. He was just so productive, and it seemed like every single game Cirelli was involved with key moments. So we really have 5 on the Bolt of the Month, but if the X poll might not let me put in all 5. So if that's the case, Cirelli might just be an honorable mention. But you've got Kucherov, Hagel, Hedman as 3. Braden Point, someone that you can consider. 10 goals in 9 games in the month of November. And also, of course, Andrei Vasilevsky. The voting will be up shortly on our X page, so stay tuned for that. But that is going to be it for today's episode of Locked On Lightning. You can vote for the Bolt of the Month on our X page. And if you have a particularly insightful comment, maybe I'll talk about it on the show tomorrow. We'll have a longer update on the 4 nations and a whole lot more to discuss in the coming days while the Lightning prepare for their game against the San Jose Sharks. But that is going to be it for tonight's show. I'm Josh Sperber, thanking all of you for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Lightning and making Locked On Lightning your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steel and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And once again, I'm Josh Sperber telling all of you to give us a like, subscribe, a follow, wherever you get your podcast, be it on YouTube, Twitter, for news, Apple, Spotify, whatever it is. Please show us some support. We do this for you guys, and we love seeing your support of this show. So thank you again for tuning in, and have a great start to the month of December. Make sure to vote for the Bolt of the Month on our Twitter page, our X page, and please have a great day.